Hello my darlings, and welcome to an Art Witch video. I'm painting an art piece for a fundraiser for medical aid in Gaza, and this video is an effort to educate, raise awareness, and raise funds for medical aid for Palestinians. In the 6 months since the October 7th attack on Israel, over 30,000 people have been killed in Gaza, 13,000 of which are children. The people of the region are in desperate need of food and medical aid. This video is a fundraiser for those efforts. When I was invited to join over 30 other witchy content creators in the Witches for Palestine tag, I was excited to be able to hear a Palestinian point of view, or rather 2 Palestinian points of view, as both Sammy and Sabrin have offered their time and energy to answer a long list of anonymous questions sent in by viewers. I see this collaboration as a way to educate myself and as a way to use my platform and my privilege to center Palestinian voices and raise awareness. As I paint this art piece, I will be including excerpts from the question and answer video that Sammy and Sabrin made. However, I encourage you to use the link below to watch the 2-hour interview in full to get more context and a broader view than my edited excerpts provide. For this art piece, I chose to include several elements iconic to the Palestinian people. An olive tree on the left, a lemon tree on the right, and a field of watermelons at the bottom. As I understand it, because the fruit's colors match the Palestinian flag, the watermelon symbolizes national unity and the preservation of cultural heritage in Palestine. Oranges, lemons, olive trees, and the cactus pear are also widely used as symbols for the Palestinian nation. As I mentioned, the art piece I'm creating is for a fundraiser. A printable version of the finished piece is one of many digital raffle prizes provided by witchy creators all over the world. Other witches have donated tarot readings, spiritual counseling sessions, mentorship, and distance Reiki healing. There are digital grimoire pages, custom sigil consultation, collage art, and many more prizes. If you'd like to donate, I've put a link to the GoFundMe below this video. To enter the raffle, take one additional step after you donate. Simply send a screenshot of your donation to witchesforpalestine@gmail.com to enter. The prize draw will happen at the end of April, so if you're watching this video at a later date, you may still be able to donate, but after April 2024, the raffle will have ended. The aim of Witches for Palestine is to educate, raise awareness, and raise funds for medical aid for Palestinians, an organization helping those in need on the ground in Gaza. You can find more information about the fundraiser and raffle prizes on the GoFundMe page at the link below. Once you're on the GoFundMe page, you can click the Read More link just below Sammy and Sabrin's video for a full list of the prizes and a recap of the instructions to enter.
What is the history behind all the fighting? And what is the reason for the boycotts and protests? Maybe the history behind all the fighting, we are kind of answering it.
Yeah, I wanted
question by question.
Yeah, I wanted to add like a very, very brief like timeline as well. In the 1800s, what's it called? Socialist Zionism? Is that what they called it back in the day?
Yeah.
Yeah, was formed, and it was, the idea of it was basically to find a nation for the Jewish people that was not specified at the time. Like, they did not specify at the time that it would be in Palestine. I think they looked into different areas.
Yeah, in Africa.
In Africa as well,
for example.
Rwanda, yeah. And then there was this proclamation made that they would be giving them a land without a people for a people without a land, which at that point someone even like mentioned, actually, like the place that you've chosen, Palestine, does have people living in it. So how would you propose that we do this? So this started, I think, the ball rolling with people who were financially well off buying certain lands in Palestine and actually offering them to like lands. They were buying lands from, I think they were Turkish landowners at the time, and selling them off to Jewish people, which we can get into the legality of later at some point. But like we all agree was like an illegal trade in the first place. But then afterwards, which is like during the Balfour Declaration and World War I, after that, when World War II happened and started, and there were some very anti-Semitic, and I think this is a very important part of the history, is that when anti-Semitism was on the rise in Europe, a lot of Jewish people were either forced or coerced to move to Palestine because they were given, like they were accepted as refugees there.
Yeah, I think probably what has to be added to that is that the Balfour Declaration and a lot of the Zionist movements and European Zionists were not doing that in the interest of Jewish people. Actually, there was a lot of anti-Semitism behind the Balfour Declaration. It was the idea that if you could move Jewish away from Europe, you would get rid of them. So actually that is very anti-Semitic to start with.
The whole thing kind of started with anti-Semitism as well, as like wanting to get rid of the unwanted people in Europe. And where in Palestine they were not unwanted, they were actually welcome. They were welcomed and treated as part of the people that were already there. And this is also like in the telling of how we are told these stories from our elders and our grandparents. We are told that we welcomed them into our homes. Like we didn't even build separate homes for them. We welcomed them into our homes. Afterwards, during World War II, a lot of the Zionist young people who were a part of militias were also given arms and training by the British military so that they could fight for the British against the Nazis in World War II.
The fact that a lot of the Zionist militia were trained by the British.
A lot of these militias were also absorbed into the current IOF.
Yes.
So the IOF, or like the people that
we call it the IDF, but the IOF.
I call them something different, but the people who did the Nakba were those people who were absorbed into the IOF, and
and actually that is very well recorded. So we will get to the book things, but I think one of the main book that everyone who really wants to understand how the whole Zionist movement built up and how we got where we are now has to read The Ethnic Cleansing of Palestine by Ilan Pappé, who, by the way, is an Israeli historian. And he really shows, using archive material from Israel, it shows that the aim has always been to get rid of all Palestinians from Palestine. And also it shows exactly what you were saying right now, that a lot of the militias, pre-1948 militia, actually then became the official or secret services of then the Israeli state.
Yeah, I think as like a very simplified timeline. That is like a very simplified timeline pre-1948. The reason for the boycotts and protests is, with the boycotts, there is a very big system that is in place that is benefiting from the oppression of Palestinians. And there are certain players in the system that are pushing and supporting that oppression. So the boycotts are to kind of put a clog in that system. Like if we boycott McDonald's, which is one of their biggest donors, then they have less money to donate to the IOF, who then have less kind of funds to use on weapons. Same with most of these companies, is that they do enable what's happening in Gaza right now. Like we've seen pictures of restaurants giving IOF soldiers free meals and things like that, and that all enables them and it empowers them.
Not to speak about companies that literally invest in the whole
in weapons
tech systems and weapon company. But the idea of boycotting, by the way, that the best way to learn about it is going to the BDS website. But the reason why the BTS came to be is because of the success of boycotting with South Africa apartheid. And it was boycotting on all levels, right? From sports to cultures, like cutting off every ties that you have with a country and a government that is committing crimes against humanity. It's essential for the dismantling of those system of apartheid or the system of oppression or the system of colonization. So boycotting is because you literally have to cut the air out of the fire, right? You can't keep putting fuel on the fire.
Also, like, boycotting and protests are one of the many ways that we as people can come together and say, no, we reject this, we refuse what's happening, and we don't want it to happen in our names. The protests are like specifically to raise more awareness and to demand that our government does better, like all of our governments do better. But at the same time, it's a way of just saying that we reject all of this. It's like at a point of just saying that we will not be subscribers to what is happening. We will not take part in it.
That is not in our names. That literally the protest is to highlight that this is not in our names. And also boycotting and protesting are probably some of the basic instruments and tools of democracy
that we can fight back with.
That we can fight back with in a completely legal, peaceful way. Like, we live in a deeply capitalist society. If me as a consumer, if I don't even have the freedom to choose where to put my money, what are we even talking about? There is clearly a system of oppression then. And if they stop us from our freedom of boycotting, there is something extremely unsettling on governments starting to talk about laws to prevent people from boycotting, because that's our basic rights as consumer, if not as citizens.
Also, like someone who has been attending protests quite regularly, I think they're absolutely a beautiful way to show solidarity and of like even self-care in a way, because when I was sitting there watching and witnessing, it's so hard to sit there and do nothing. It's so hard to feel like there is nothing in your power that you can do in that moment to make a change. But when you are out there protesting, when you're out there shouting with people who also understand where you're coming from, you feel like you're in a safe space that contains you and your feelings. You can let your feelings out, and you're also showing the people of Palestine. You're showing them that we do stand with them, and this also helps. This helps them in many ways to kind of see that they are not alone in the fight. And this is something that we've been told multiple times, is that people in Palestine watch our protests. They feel that kind of solidarity that we send in our protests, and they know that we're there fighting with them. I think for me, it's like one of those big things where I have started putting my Saturdays specifically aside for the protest, because A, it's solidarity, B, it's fighting back, and C, it's a big part of my self-care as well.
Yeah, they are amazing place of love and healing and community healing and community making and mini making.
Communal support, like in a way that it's like when I see a child grab the microphone and start chanting, and they are empowered because there are so many people around them that are following in their chants. That is such an empowering moment for that child as well. And it's beautiful to see people bringing their families in solidarity, even like the dogs at the protests.
And that's another thing probably to say is like these protests have been depicted as something violent and aggressive. Like, I have been to the London ones, to the Cardiff ones, to the Bristol ones.
They are love marches. They are love marches. We are giving love to the people of Palestine and to each other in those moments.
100%. Two questions together. What would you say to those who claim that protesting on the streets in the US, UK is useless and won't achieve anything? So that's one. We're putting it together with, I have a question about advocacy rather than Palestine itself. How do you get family, or people in general, more inspired to be involved? Family that may be sympathetic but overall doesn't talk about it that much.
Okay, so let's start with the first one.
Yeah.
We are seeing every day that protesting on the streets in the US, UK, and etc. all over the world, it does achieve something and it does make a big difference. Like, I think a lot of the people who say that protesting of the streets of the US and UK specifically are saying this because they don't understand the UK and the US's complicity in everything that's happening. And we can demand that our governments do better. We can demand that we stop selling arms to Israel. We can demand that we stop giving them money, like, especially with America and the tax money that is going to, like, we are in charge of where our taxes go. And I would like we have a homelessness crisis in the UK. People are homeless in the UK and there are no places to keep them. We have a food crisis. We have a cost of living crisis that never ended. And yet we're still sending tax money to Israel so that they could kill innocent Palestinians. In the protest, that is our chance to say, do not do that with our money. Do not do that with our, like, this is our agency over what we do with our funds and with our support systems, where we allocate them and where we put them. And the protests are the people coming together and saying, do not spend my money on war, do not spend my money on genocide, you know, spend it where I want it to be. The reason that we know that they are making a difference is because, frankly, fascist actors in government have been coming out and really kind of criticizing the marches without ever having been a part of them in the first place. So when you have people that are calling them hate marches and that are like spreading Islamophobia, we come together to say, actually, we reject that and we reject you and your rhetoric as well.
Things are changing. They really are.
Even though we can't like see it in like a very straight...
But I can tell you something quite easily, right? In 2021, when there was another war on Gaza, it was almost impossible to hear people talking about Palestine. Now it looks like people can't stop talking about us. And it seems like a stupid difference, but it makes all the difference in the world. Like, young generation are very hard to fool about what is happening in Palestine, while my generation, when we were young, no one talked about it. Things are changing. And also, there is something that, in my opinion, is very important to understand, is that we live in a society that is telling us that everything has to be obtained immediately. So if you protest today, changes has to happen tomorrow. Because that's capitalism, that's consumerist societies. My strong dream is that the way we protest and the way we are asked for change and the change we are trying to manifest and bring about is actually gonna go not only towards saving Palestinian people, but also saving us as humanity and against capitalism. And one of those things is accepting that not everything is product, but it can just be a process. It can just be a movement. So those protests, maybe that you don't see the consequences of this protest the day after the protest happen, but they're building up momentum, they're building up community, and they're building up movement. They are encouraging people to speak up, they're encouraging people to come out, they're encouraging people to feel safe. They are making a huge difference. And of course, because they haven't stopped for 6 months, things are also gonna start changing. Like we have seen recently, San Francisco in the US, the biggest town to actually ask for a ceasefire. Not only we need hope, but we also need to understand that saying that these things don't bring about change is a way used by the propaganda for, you know, don't do that because it doesn't make any change. It does, then do it. Yeah, we really need to do it.
And I think, like, it's like you said, this is a process. Palestinians have been working and talking about this for over 75 years now, and we understand that it's not something that will happen overnight. It's something that is a process that will take time, and we're here for it. Like, Palestine may not be free tomorrow, but when it is, we are going to be here. It
Inshallah.
will be, yeah, inshallah. Yeah, and we will keep working towards it, and we hope that the people that, like, I've had friends here in the UK that have said to me, I've never known anything about this. And I kind of like had to do a double take because I was like, how do you not?
Yeah.
But then I kind of understood that you guys learned something different in history class.
Yep.
And that's where it became important to talk about it more and raise awareness, because it's like there are people who have actually never heard about what's happening in Palestine, and they need to know. People just need to know so that they can make their own informed decisions.
Yeah. And actually on Saturday we were at the march, and there was someone holding a picture of one of the kids, of the Palestinian child who died of starvation. And there were a group of teenagers that were just, you know, messing about around town. and they were with their bicycles, and they came across the march. They stopped because they were curious about what was happening, and I saw one of these young teenagers looking at the pictures of the starving kids and literally do that with their hands in front of their mouth and with their eyes big. Now I'm telling you, if the only thing that march on Saturday achieved was for that teenager to be shocked into something and question it and maybe go home and start looking at it, that was a massive win.
Mm-hmm. Also, like, I remember through some of the actions that we've had going back home, and on my way home I would be like hearing people talk about it, and I don't even know if it's positive or negative or in what context they're talking about it, because I'm just passing them by as they are walking past me. But it is making a difference in that it does get people to talk about it more and discuss it more, and understand where their understanding stops and where they need to do more research and more information, like building and diving as well. So keep going to those protests.
And also keep going for these protests, not just for Palestine, but for any democratic future. Because if we stop protesting, that means that we're giving up on actually fair and equal and green post-capitalist world that I really hope is.
And it's important to also mention, we do not only march for Palestine, we march for Palestine and for all the oppressed people. So like in a few weeks, I know that we are going to be marching for Palestine and Sudan, as we do like every time we have speakers from different people who are oppressed come and speak in the Palestine protests. It is to basically decolonize and to like get more awareness about the oppression of all of us in the world, not just in Palestine.
This is definitely a global movement, and it's a movement that wants to bring a different future to the world, not just for Palestinians.
A few weeks ago, we also had a queer march, a feeder march into the Palestine march, and that was a beautiful display of solidarity as well.
And to get into the second question, the one about how do you get your family inspired to be involved, sometimes it's not easy, but I would say you don't have to start from the march or the protest if you feel like your family is a bit, or your friends are a bit concerned about it. There are so many events going on right now. Start easy,
And sometimes it's not even like if they are still at that place where they're not even ready to go to an event. I think it's important to also understand the dehumanization that has been happening over decades to Palestinians, Muslims, and Arabs in general, and start challenging that as well. So I know that a friend of mine told me that they made msakhan for their family as a way of like starting a conversation in the holidays about Palestinian culture and Palestinian people. Sometimes you might have to start even before like going straight into like, let's go to an event. You might need to start challenging those preconceived notions about Arabs and Muslims and Palestinians in general that lead to people not caring or to thinking of us as something other than human in a way, because like this is a big thing that happens where people are like, well, it's not impacting me, so they don't look like me, they don't speak my language, so what is my connection to them? Start connecting with people based on like simple things like culture and beautiful things that we have to offer as well.
And there is a lot in terms of actions, there is a lot of things that you can do very comfortable, very safe, donating money, signing petition, writing to MPs, even helping someone who is very active right now. We were talking about that. There are people who are literally working full-time and then working full-time for Palestine, that maybe they haven't done their laundry in weeks, or they didn't have a proper meal in weeks. Even just convincing, I don't know, if your grandma is sympathetic but she doesn't know what to do, ask them to prepare some food to bring to a friend that has given them all to the cause, because that I can tell you, I would love that. You can do small things like that. I'm gonna put these 3 questions together. I have written to my MP and has a response. I go to marches and I post on my social media. I cannot go on strike from work as I would lose my job, but I want to be able to support where I can. What can I do to help? This is one. Also, how can an individual contribute and help stop the crisis going on in Gaza? And also, best charity to donate to help protect children in Palestine.
Okay, so you are doing all of the things. Can you think of anything?
Yeah, well, probably what we were saying before. Can you reach out to people in your community that are maybe the organizers of this march, like, you know, that they need help in their personal life? Or do you know maybe Palestinians in your community that maybe need some help? Because I can speak for myself, but now it's a bit better. Now we kind of sort of, I don't want to say get used to it, but we are sort of pacing ourselves a bit better now. At the beginning, a lot of Palestinians were completely like all over the place, and you know, not sleeping, not eating, not doing it. Can you reach out to some Palestinians in your community maybe, and see if they need any help? Donating is something else. If you can't donate money because you know maybe it's not viable to you, can you organize something that collects money then can go to help Palestinians in need? But you are doing a lot, and also remember there are other forms of protesting that it's by going against what our society expects from us. Can you rest?
Yeah, that's a big one. Self-care. Self-care is so important because like we can get so caught up in doing everything all at once because you know, you think about it and you're like, this needs to end now, but we are not carrying this on our shoulders alone. We are all together. This is a communal effort. This is a collective effort. So you need time for self-care. Make sure you put that time in so that you don't get burnt out, because the last thing that people really need is to get burnt out and not be able to fight anymore.
Yeah, you have to think about this as a like activism and movements and solidarity as a choir. We are all singing, but if you stop singing for like a half a minute, the choir is still there. If you stop singing because you burn out and you don't sing anymore, then the choir will feel it. So, you know, recharging and self-care and resting, and maybe also encouraging people in your community to do so. You know, that could be very, very helpful actually.
In some of our friend groups, we've started care pods, and like we have some well-being groups as well, to make sure that even if one of our friends, let's say, is not paying attention to their own self-care, others can even kind of tap them on the shoulder and be like, do you want to take a break? I'll help you with this so that you can take some time.
Yeah. How can an individual contribute to help and stop the crisis going on in Gaza? So, sort of what we were saying, you know, writing to MP, go to marches and protest, withhold your tax monies. If you can go on strike, go on strike. You know, do you have a union? Are you part of a union? See how you can organize that. You get organized in your union.
Also, Palestinians from Gaza themselves have told us that us posting and talking about it is a great help to them. So even on a day where we feel like our bodies are exhausted and we can't really go out into the street and do the actions, we can just stay home and like have a relaxed day where we post things online and we work on like raising awareness online as well.
Yeah. Can you talk to people? Like, because some of us are very good talkers, you know, that we talk, or some of us are very good linkers. Can you link people together maybe? Like, if you know two people that are maybe struggling with the same thing and want support, can you put them together? You know, once again, do not focus on the final product per se, because it's a movement, it's gonna take time, it's a process, but keep doing little things and organize and get together.
No one person can carry this weight alone, so we all support each other.
Yeah.
Best charity to donate to help protect children in Palestine. So medical aid for Palestinians is really good. Yes, we love them, but
we need to also pay attention to charities. This is why I like HIRN, Hebrew International Research Network, because they are actually a grassroots movement, and they bring the help where they can, where is needed at the moment. So the money goes to them, and then they literally ask the community, where do you think we need the money to go to? And they do it. And it can be something simple as this family, you know, the settler have just destroyed their car and they need the car to go to work, and they will buy the car for their family. Or it could be the school has been just destroyed, let's build another school. It was based in Hebron, Al-Khalil, but it's also, they are based really wherever the people needs it. You can donate to them through Amos Trust, that it's another very good place to donate.
There's a few people who are on the ground who are collecting, like Sanabel team, for example. They collect your donations and they feed people on the ground. I think they're currently doing it in Rafah, if I'm not wrong. There's also like, there's something that I found that was called the Operation Olive Branch, which is not specifically for people in Palestine. Well, it is for people in Palestine. It's for the families who are trying to leave at the moment, to leave Gaza. They've collated all of the GoFundMes into one big master sheet, and they are helping kind of see who's at the highest level of needs and allocating the funds according to that. So that's really good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Locally here, we have had two wonderful humans who have just come back from Egypt, where they went kutches to Gaza. So they went to Egypt and they took about 14,000, I think, in donations, and they used that money to help Palestinian families settle into Egypt after they left through Rafah. So that money went to like buying mattresses, getting medications, even covering rent, finding work for people. So there are so many initiatives that are happening.
That was amazing, actually.
Yeah, that was
I really loved that one.
If you would like to donate, I've put a link to the GoFundMe below this video. To enter the raffle, take one additional step after you donate. Simply send a screenshot of your donation to witchesforpalestine@gmail.com to enter. You can find more information about the fundraiser and raffle prizes on the GoFundMe page at the link below.